The first sound that always woke Diana Brooks was the rooster behind her family's mud brick house in OWNE village. At dawn, the bird crowed as though it owned the rising sun. Diana, barefoot on the cool clay floor, folded her thin mat and whispered a greeting to her mother, Mama Nkechi, who was already stirring a pot of pap over a wood fire. Mama, morning, my star. Eat quickly so you won't miss the lorry. Diana ate, rubbing sleep from her eyes. I will, Mama. One day I'll buy you a gas cooker. No more smoke. Mama only smiled, touched by a dream so big on a tongue so small. Outside, the village road was red earth and fog. Diana's father, Papa Okonkwo, balanced a battered bicycle with a woven basket of palm kernels bound for the market. He slipped a single 20 naira note into her exercise book. Papa, softly for extra chalk. Knowledge first, my daughter. Clothes can wait. Diana hugged him, inhaling the scent of palm oil and sweat that defined sacrifice. Years passed. Scholarships and top exam scores carried her to the University of Port Harcourt to study petroleum engineering. Campus life dazzled many first years, but Diana treated cafeterias like libraries, eating ekpeng kwokwo with a notebook open beside her. Her roommate, Bose, teased her one evening. Bose, A+ queen, come out. There's a live band by the lagoon. Diana, smiling. The crude oil under the Niger Delta won't wait for my dance moves. Bose, you know fun is legal, right? Diana, fun is freedom. And freedom is expensive. I'm still saving. Bose rolled her eyes, but fetched Diana Akara the next morning, respect folded inside the paper wrap. Holidays found Diana back in the village, tutoring children for pennies. She handed half the money to her mother, half into an old Milo tin she called My Refinery. Each coin clinked like a promise. By her final year, she secured an internship at Rapids Petroleum, Port Harcourt. The office smelled of polish and ambition. On her first day, the operations manager, Mr. Adeyemi, pointed to a stack of seismic data. Adeyemi gruff, interns file, fetch coffee, and keep quiet. Diana nodded, then spent nights color-coding fault lines until her analysis saved the company 40 drilling hours. At Friday's briefing, the country manager asked who prepared the report. Adeyemi cleared his throat, but Diana's initials were on every page. Respect shifted rooms that day, quiet but decisive as a tide change. Year 1, after graduation, she lived in a windowless hostel, earning just enough to wire money home and refill the Milo tin. She learned procurement, logistics, and, most importantly, where small contractors bled cash. By 25, she resigned, stunning colleagues. Friend, curious. Quit? Are they paying you badly? Diana, packing her box. They're paying me in salary. I need profit. She rented a shipping container near the Aleem jetty and painted Brooks Energy Services on the side. Her staff? One welder named Sani and Shearwill. On launch, morning rain leaked through a hole in the roof onto her only laptop. She slid a bowl under the drip and kept typing emails. 2 months of rejection later, an elderly community chief from Bonny Island walked into the container office. Chief Abong, my people need power for fish freezing sheds. Can you install a small diesel plant? Diana, heartbeat racing. Yes, sir. I'll handle equipment and training and give you used technical jobs. She had exactly 0 gen sets, only faith. That night, she phoned 12 suppliers, bartered a crazy payment plan, and hauled machines on hired barges herself. When the lights flickered on in Bonny, fishermen cheered. Their wives danced. Chief Abong handed her a check big enough to silence doubt. Success breeds footsteps. Referral contracts arrived, pipelines to inspect, spill sites to remediate. Even big players began to notice the quiet firm with spotless delivery records. But Diana remembered nights without kerosene and refused flamboyance. She rented a modest 2-bedroom flat, took public taxis, and wore Ankara bought wholesale in Yaba Market. Reporters called for interviews. She declined. At industry conferences, a silver-haired gentleman, Mr. Simeon Okafor, often sat beside her. A retired NMPC director, he saw the pattern. She asked sharp questions yet never boasted. After one panel, he invited her for tea. Okafor, young lady, why dodge the spotlight? Diana, oil burns bright enough. People don't need to watch me burn too. Okafor laughed, sipping hot Lipton. I'm assembling a board to acquire onshore assets. We need brains, not ego. Interested, Diana, after a pause, as long as I can remain a silent partner. Deal. The birth of Brooks Oil and Gas Corp. Diana rolled earlier profits. Okafor brought heavyweight networks, and two other directors added equity. Legally, Diana held 62%, yet her name stayed off letterheads. At board inauguration, a photographer searched the small crowd. Photographer, where's Mrs. Brooks? The press kit calls her majority shareholder. Okafor, with a rehearsed shrug, Madam couldn't attend. Diana stood at the back, plain dress, anonymous as a wallflower, recording everything on a cheap phone. In 6 months, Brooks, OWNE, won a marginal field license and a processing deal with a downstream giant. Revenues ballooned. Still, village folks saw no Range Rover outside the Brooks compound. Only Mama Nkechi's new gas cooker and Papa Okonkwo's arthritis medicine delivered monthly. One humid evening, Diana drove alone to the old shipping container, now scheduled for demolition. She unlocked the rusty door and ran her fingers over the stains the rain had left years earlier. Sani, now safety supervisor at her Port Harcourt yard, found her there. Sani, gently, Madam, we can replace this with a marble monument. Diana, never. This is my monument. Holes, dents, and hope. They shared a quiet laugh, the kind that echoes louder than applause. A call from home. Papa's voice crackled on the line. Papa, child, elders want you as guest speaker for Founders Day. Diana, but they'll ask where I work. Papa, then tell them. Hiding light under a calabash won't quench envy. It only starves seedlings who need light to grow. His words struck deep. She agreed. Founders Day crowds filled the dusty schoolyard where she once scribbled in worn notebooks. Children in oversized uniforms watched as Diana, still in simple Ankara, but now with steady poise, stepped to a wooden podium. Diana, voice clear, I sat where you sit. Candle wax stained my fingers. Dreams stained my heart. Education is a ladder, but you must climb. No one will carry you. Parents nodded. Teachers wiped tears. After the speech, the headmistress handed her a guest book. Diana opened her pen, paused, then signed Diana C. Brooks, founder and CEO, Brooks Oil and Gas Corporation. The villagers erupted. Papa smiled like a man who planted a seed and watched it split the earth. The cost of humility. News of the mysterious female tycoon hit business dailies the next week. Investors cheered, but skeptics sneered. How did a village girl control such assets? Diana faced her first television camera on Africa Rising. Anchor, Ms. Brooks, people say you fooled an entire sector by hiding. Diana, calm, a seed hides in soil before it sprouts. Was it fooling the sun while it grew roots? Late at night, Diana parked her modest Corolla outside a sprawling facility at Osubi. Hum of compressors filled the air. Gas flares painted the sky amber. She climbed a steel staircase alone. From the catwalk, she saw it all. Pipelines pulsing like arteries. Workers in reflective overalls trading jokes across walkie-talkies. And distant swamp trees swaying as though applauding. She closed her eyes and remembered candlelit nights. The smell of burnt wicks, Papa's bicycle creak, Mama's smoke-stung cough, the Milo tin rattling under her bed. She whispered a vow to the wind. This wealth is water. It must flow, not stagnate. Tomorrow, scholarships. Next month, solar wells. Let every drop count. Below, floodlights bathed the Brooks logo on a giant storage tank. Two interlocked bees shaped like cupped hands. Hands that once cupped a flame to read, now lighting whole communities. Diana exhaled, serene. She had worn poverty like a second skin and shed it without shedding grace. Yet she sensed the road ahead would test more than courage. It would test the weight of a name. And though she did not know it, that test would soon appear in the smiling eyes of a man named Hugo, and in the prideful glare of a supervisor who never imagined his unseen boss could be the young woman who strolled past security each morning with a lunchbox and no entourage. But for tonight, the village girl on the catwalk simply watched her kingdom breathe, heart steady as the engines thrumming below, and let the warm Niger Delta breeze lift her braided hair toward a horizon she was still hungry to reach. Lagos glowed like a chandelier the evening of the Starlight Foundation Gala. The old railway terminal had been transformed. Crystal chandeliers dangled from steel beams, and a jazz quartet floated music above murmured philanthropy. Diana Brooks arrived without press, wearing a simple midnight blue gown that cost less than a single dinner setting on the linen-draped tables. Across the room, Hugo Williams scanned the crowd with the mild disorientation of a man forced into tuxedos twice a week. He preferred workshops to ballrooms, but his mother insisted a true Williams must be seen supporting society's finer causes. The auctioneer lifted a wooden gavel. Auctioneer, Lot 7, sponsorship of a rural solar-powered library for children. The gavel hovered. Hugo's hand twitched toward his paddle, until a calm, female voice spoke beside him. Diana, smiling books before chandeliers, right? Hugo turned, taken first by her certainty, then by the kindness in her eyes. Hugo, grinning, exactly what I was thinking. Shall we split the bid? Diana, even better. Let's both pledge double the library. Laughter flickered between them like sparks finding dry wood. The gavel fell. Applause rippled. Hugo leaned closer. Hugo, I'm Hugo, part-time engineer, full-time admirer of brave ideas. Diana, extending her hand, Diana, nighttime dreamer, daytime builder of whatever I can. They shook hands, and something unseen clicked into place, like gears finally meeting after spinning alone for years. Gala etiquette meant champagne flutes and name-dropping, yet Hugo suggested a coffee cart parked outside the terminal. The barista's machine hissed while black SUVs idled at the curb. Hugo, I'm still buzzing from that pledge. Most people buy paintings. Diana, paintings feed walls. Libraries feed minds. Minds build paintings and refineries and bridges. Hugo blinked. Refineries? Diana, shrugging lightly, I work around oil projects. Hugo, renewable energy components. My small way of making amends for the family's diesel legacy. Steam curled between them, carrying hazelnut aroma and the quiet thrill of intellectual symmetry. Diana checked her watch. It was nearly midnight. Diana, I should get going. Early site visit. Hugo, half joking. Well, I need a fundraising gala ticket to see you again. Diana, just hunger for coffee and useful conversations. They exchanged numbers, and as Hugo watched her slip into a modest Corolla, he felt absurdly proud of a woman whose last name he barely knew. Their first official outing was not at a rooftop lounge, but at a children's clinic in Mushin. Hugo arrived in rolled-up sleeves, helping Diana paint cartoon lions on waiting room walls. Children giggled. He grinned at her streaked cheek. Hugo, you have orange paint on your face. Diana, wiping unsuccessfully occupational hazard. Hugo, may I? He gently dabbed a tissue across her cheek. Time stilled long enough for nurses to exchange knowing smiles. They ate suya from a roadside stall afterward, sitting on a broken curb. Diana narrated village tales, reading by candle, saving coins in a Milo tin. Hugo listened, elbows on knees, ignoring the sleek sedan driver waiting impatiently nearby. He suspected she was comfortable financially. Her phone was the latest model, but her stories breathed too much struggle to be fiction. Sunday sunlight splashed over the Williams estate in Ikoyi when Hugo invited Diana for brunch. The gates swung open to reveal manicured hedges shaped like chess pieces. Charles Williams greeted them in a linen caftan, face lined with years of boardroom wars. Charles, shaking Hugo's hand, eyeing Diana, son, you didn't tell me you'd bring a guest. Hugo, steady, Dad. This is Diana Brooks. Charles offered a polite smile, already scanning her understated dress. Welcome. Inside, Margaret Williams fussed over a silver tureen of pepper soup. Pearls clacked as she turned. "Margaret, darling, mind the carpet. Oh, you must be Diana." Warmly, "Diana. Pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Williams." Margaret's return smile was flawless yet thin. "Brooks. Brooks. Which Brooks family?" "The one from Victoria Island." Diana sipped water before answering. "No famous clan. Just ordinary people from OWNE." Margaret blinked, as if the village name were an unfamiliar spice in her bouillon. Nathan burst in. Ty half nodded. "Nathan," clapping Hugo's back. "So this is the mystery lady. Any chance you're into venture capital? I've a fintech pitch." Diana, light laugh. "Afraid I'm busy turning valves, not apps." Nathan smirked at Hugo. "She's blue collar." "Really?" But Hugo's arm around Diana's chair made the smirk falter. Brunch conversation drifted to industry gossip. Charles, delighted to have a captive audience, bragged about supervising midstream projects for Brooks Oil and Gas. "Charles, they run a tight ship. The board's sharp. Whoever owns that company hides like a ghost. Smart move. Avoids kidnappers." Diana only nodded, tasting irony like extra pepper in her soup. Afterward, Hugo walked her to her car. Hugo, apologetic, "My family can be a lot." Diana, "They love you." "That's a good problem." She brushed his cheek. Across the driveway, Margaret watched, lips pursed as if she'd swallowed vinegar. 2 weeks later, Margaret invited Diana to afternoon tea. No Hugo present. The living room smelled of roses and interrogation. Margaret, pouring tea cream? Sugar? Ancestry. Diana, smiling, "Just cream. Thank you." Margaret set the cup down with precise force. "My husband and I built a name brick by brick. The Williams legacy must remain elevated." Diana, "I respect that." Margaret, "Elevation requires pedigree, schools, circles, lineage." "Which clubs do your parents belong to?" Diana, "They belong to faith and hard work. Simple clubs, membership lifelong." Margaret's eyebrow arched, as sharp as a quill. "I see." Diana left the mansion calm, but in Hugo's Kia later, she exhaled a deep, unseen ache. Hugo, concerned, "Mum grilled you." Diana, softly, "Your mother protects her nest." "I understand. We'll just keep showing her who I am." He squeezed her hand. "Who you are is all I want." 3 months later, Hugo asked Diana to meet him at a disused airstrip near Abeokuta for a surprise. Dusk painted the grass gold. As she arrived, hundreds of paper lanterns blinked to life, forming a glowing path. Hugo waited at the end, nervous but resolute. He knelt, ring in hand. "Hugo, I love your mind, your heart, your fire. Will you marry me? And let me stand beside that fire all my life." Tears glittered in her eyes, reflecting lantern light. Diana, steady, joyful, "Yes. 1,000 times yes." They embraced while lanterns drifted upward like newborn stars. Friends gathered at a small art cafe for an engagement party. Bose led a choir that surprised Diana with an a cappella mashup of love songs. Even Sonny journeyed from Port Harcourt, toasting Madam that builds nations. But the next weekend belonged to the Williamses. Margaret insisted on a formal announcement dinner. Crystal, string quartet, guest list of people who mattered. Hugo arrived hand in hand with Diana, both in understated elegance. Halfway through Prawns Florentine, Charles raised a glass. "Charles, to the future Mrs. Williams. May our families merge in excellence." Applause scattered politely. Yet when Diana excused herself, she overheard Nathan whispering near the study. "Nathan, low voice, bro, she's sweet, but do you actually know her net worth? Or is this a charity case in lipstick?" Hugo, "I see Nathan. Respect her, or leave my house." Later, Hugo confronted his parents in the library paneled with mahogany ambition. "Hugo, I'm marrying her. Full stop." Charles, measured son, "Love is joyous. But marriage is merger. We vet mergers." Hugo, "Then vet me instead. I choose her." Margaret, voice trembling, "You'd discard legacy for a woman with no pedigree." Hugo, firm, "Legacy without love is a tomb." The August evening felt unusually heavy, as if Lagos itself sensed the storm brewing at 7 Coral Crescent. Across the city, a soft rain tapped on roofs, but inside the Williams mansion, waiters in starched white coats hurried beneath glass chandeliers, polishing silver that already shone. Margaret Williams had planned the night like a corporate takeover, a small, intimate family dinner, just 19 guests, all carefully selected to witness the quiet demolition of one unwelcome fiancé. Hugo's SUV rolled through the iron gates at 6:30. In the passenger seat, Diana Brooks smoothed the skirt of her simple emerald dress. No designer logo, no diamonds, just a slim gold bracelet, a gift from her mother. Hugo noticed her fingers tapping nervously on her lap. Hugo, soft, will be in and out. I promise. Diana, smiling but tight. I'm ready. Storms do not frighten farmers, remember? Hugo, and you harvest hurricanes. He squeezed her hand as a valet opened the door. Inside the foyer, a pianist coaxed soft jazz from a grand piano. The melody floated like rose petals over marble. Diana inhaled slow, remembering Papa's advice. Stand tall, even if your knees shake. Margaret met them at the foot of the staircase, lips stretched into a hostess smile. Margaret, Diana, dear, how lovely you look. Hugo, guests are eager to see the happy couple. Her eyes flicked over Diana's understated dress. No couture label, nothing for gossip columns to zoom in on. Diana answered with genuine warmth. Diana, thank you for having me, Mrs. Williams. Margaret guided them toward the drawing room. Along the hallway, enormous portraits of Williams' ancestors watched like silent jurors. Hugh Fredericks Williams, the shipping pioneer, Edith Williams, philanthropist, and then Charles Williams, painted only a year ago, arms folded before a pipeline diagram. Supervisor, Brooks Oil and Gas Corp. Nathan emerged from a cluster of young men in tailored suits, drink in hand. Nathan, grinning too wide, sis-in-law to be, or should I say hopeful-in-law. Hugo, warning tone, Nathan. Nathan, ignoring Hugo, come, Diana, meet the crew, people who actually run the city's cash flow. He steered her to 3 bankers and an oil services broker. Their greetings dripped politeness, but eyes weighed her clothes the way traders weigh cocoa beans. Diana answered their small talk about exchange rates with calm clarity. Soon the bankers found themselves nodding to her analysis of global diesel futures. Dinner was announced. The long mahogany table gleamed under an Italian chandelier, shaped like blooming glass lilies. Place cards guided guests. Hugo beside Diana, Margaret at the head, Charles opposite her, Nathan midway down, but within striking distance. The extras, cousins, business friends, a gossip column journalist, just passing, fill the rest. Starters arrived, peppered snail on plantain crisps. Conversation began politely. The rainy season, new toll gate fees, a minister's scandal. But Margaret's agenda lurked beneath every word. She lifted her wine glass. Margaret, smile fixed. Diana, dear, tell us again, your parents are for which village? Diana, OWNE in Anambra. Cousin Lydia, that's near the oil belt, right? Plenty of new money there nowadays. Margaret, sweetly, new money is not quite old money, Lydia. A ripple of laughter, thin, obedient, moved around the table. Hugo's jaw tightened. Diana kept her gaze steady on Margaret. Diana, money, new or old, buys the same bag of rice, Mrs. Williams. Silence. Then a banker chuckled into his napkin. Margaret's eyes cooled a fraction. Waiters presented the second course, okra soup in porcelain bowls. Nathan leaned forward, spoon clinking. Nathan, Diana, rumor says you're in oil. Upstream? Midstream? Or just petrol stations? Diana, even a bit of everything, mostly logistics. Nathan, interesting, because he gestured to himself and Hugo, grew up watching pipeline deals over breakfast. Dad runs operations at Brooks Oil, you know. Across from him, Charles lifted a brow, but remained silent. Nathan, continuing, the numbers would spin your head. Billions, not millions. But I suppose that's hard to picture if you haven't sat in those rooms. Margaret, Nathan, humility. Nathan, smirking, just stating facts, mother. Diana dabbed her lips with a napkin. Diana, those rooms must be impressive. Do the walls listen when men count money? Nathan, puzzled. Walls. Diana, yes, so they can tell the poor how loudly the rich speak. Cousin Lydia choked softly on her drink. Margaret decided subtlety had failed. She placed her spoon down with a quiet click. Margaret, Hugo, darling, I speak frankly. Hugo's eyes narrowed. Go ahead, Mum. Margaret inhaled. Marriage is not merely affection. It is alignment of values and background. Pedigree. She turned to Diana. Margaret, you are intelligent, clearly. But pedigree takes generations. Your father was a... Diana, Palm Kernel trader. A very good one. Margaret, with gentle pity, a humble profession, of course. Yet, Hugo, you cannot marry a woman whose father is a nobody. Crystal clattered as Hugo's fork hit his plate. Gasps dotted the table. Charles closed his eyes, as though bracing for thunder. Diana inhaled slowly, feeling heat rise, not shame, but righteous flame. She raised her head. Her voice was steady as steel cooled in water. Diana, who decides who is a nobody, Mrs. Williams? The size of a bank account? The postcode on a birth certificate? Margaret, recovering society decides. Reality is reality. Diana, reality is that every somebody is dust without the breath God lends. Titles do not follow coffins. Nathan laughed, short, mocking. Nathan, quoting scripture in a boardroom won't raise capital, dear. Look, my last quarter earnings? He snapped his fingers. A cousin pulled out a phone, displaying a chart. 700 million naira. Straight profit. He leaned back, triumphant. Nathan, that's money you can't relate with. Margaret nodded approvingly, draping an invisible medal on her elder son. Hugo stood, voice shaking with anger. Hugo, enough, Nathan. Enough, Mum. If money makes humans, then every thief is royalty. Sit down and apologize. Nathan waves him off. Relax, baby brother. We're educating your fiancée. Hugo, she needs no education from arrogance. Dinner plates were being cleared when Margaret lifted another topic like a spear. Margaret, Hugo, darling, you'll soon take a seat on the board of Brooks Oil, won't you? Such advancement runs in the Williams blood. Charles nodded, pleased, and Nathan straightened like a peacock. Diana rested her palms on the linen, eyes thoughtful. A hush, then she spoke, soft, almost playful. Diana, Brooks Oil and Gas? You mean my company? For half a heartbeat the words floated, weightless. Then laughter burst from three corners of the table. Nathan, wiping a tear, good one. You should try stand up. Maybe that field suits a village girl. Cousin Lydia, giggling, she nearly got me. But Hugo didn't laugh. He'd seen that quiet confidence before. Diana waited for the room to settle, then laced her fingers. My surname is Brooks. The board chose to keep me off the press releases. It was safer that way. Silence seeped between crystal goblets. The pianist, sensing the mood shift, stopped mid-arpeggio. Margaret's manicured hand trembled as she reached for her phone. Click, click, click. A quick search. Owner of Brooks Oil and Gas Corporation. Seconds later, an article opened. Headline bold. Photo unmistakable. Diana C. Brooks, the reclusive engineer driving Nigeria's new energy icon. The phone slipped. Only Hugo's reflex saved it from the soup. Gasps ricocheted around the table like dropped plates in a quiet chapel. Charles's wine glass toppled. Red liquid pooled, dark as a confession. Charles, horse you. You're the majority shareholder? Diana, gently, 62% yes. You oversee operations brilliantly. I've admired your discipline for years. Nathan's cheeks drained of color. His former smirk now twitched, unsure if it should return or flee. Nathan, weak laugh, hold on. If this is true, why hide? CEOs crave cameras. Diana, seeds hide before they grow. I preferred roots before trumpet blasts. Margaret pressed a hand to her chest. All this time I spoke of pedigree. Diana, and I spoke of character. Pedigree without kindness is a coin without print. Shiny, but worth nothing. The journalist guest fumbled for his notepad, eyes wide as stadium lights. A mother's reckoning. Margaret's pearl bracelet clacked like hailstones. She opened her mouth twice before words obeyed. Margaret, voice small, all the harsh things I said. Yet you sat and listened. Diana, listening reveals hearts faster than speaking. Now you know mine. I know yours. Tears threatened to unseat Margaret's mascara. Can you forgive an ignorant mother? Diana offered a steady smile. A mother defending her nest is no crime. The cruelty was assuming outsiders are threats. She extended a hand. Margaret clasped it, eyes flooding. The binding flame. Hugo stepped forward, wrapping an arm around Diana. This revelation changes nothing for me, except deepen my awe. Diana, soft laugh, and lighten my pockets, maybe. Now you know where the coffee money really comes from. Charles exhaled, a man shedding old armor. Hugo, son, your choice was right. Character outranks pedigree. He turned to Diana. Madam Brooks, Diana, you have not only built pipelines, you've built bridges. May I cross one as your father-in-law? Diana's eyes glistened. Only if you call me daughter at the other side. Applause, tentative, sincere, rose from cousins, bankers, and even the pianist, who resumed playing a gentle high-life tune. The Williams mansion exhaled a stunned hush as Diana Brooks and Hugo Williams stepped onto the rain-damp portico. Chandeliers still glittered inside, but outside the night smelled of wet jasmine and fresh beginnings. Behind the couple, faint murmurs floated, Margaret apologizing to servants, Nathan muttering to himself, Charles ordering someone to fetch a mop for the spilled wine. Hugo slipped off his jacket and draped it over Diana's shoulders. She gazed up at him, moonlight soft on her face. Hugo, lo, you okay? Diana, small, grateful laugh. I'm more than okay. I'm free. They walked to the waiting car. No limousine tonight, just Hugo's reliable Kia. As the driver pulled away, Diana looked back once. In an upstairs window, she saw Margaret watching, pearls gone, shoulders small, eyes brimming with something that looked a lot like humility. When talk of the wedding surfaced, Margaret suggested a cathedral. Nathan offered a beach resort. I can negotiate sponsorship. Lego Society pages begged for exclusivity. Diana shook her head gently. Diana, our vows began in soil. Let them sprout where roots remember. The decision. A quiet ceremony in OWNE's stone church. Seating capacity 120 if children sat on laps. No gold leaf programs, no drone videography, no celebrity stylists. Just calico ribbons, wildflowers, and a village choir bows would conduct. Invitations went out on recycled paper pressed with tiny palm leaf motifs. At Diana's insistence, half were reserved for orphans from the Sunrise home in Port Harcourt, a shelter she'd funded secretly for years. The kids would ride in 2 borrowed school buses, giggling all the way, each gifted a simple sky blue outfit sewn by local tailors. 7. Procession. 2 worlds walked together. The church bell, a bronze relic from colonial days, rang 9 slow peals. Brass band launched into I Will Be Here, high life style. Procession order. Orphans in sky blue, each holding a hand-painted wooden lantern. Village elders carrying calabashes of blessed water. Margaret and Papa arm in arm, symbol of 2 families rerouted. Nathan and Mama Nkechi exchanging jokes about palm kernel futures. Hugo and Diana last, walking side by side, not the traditional bride behind groom. Equality in stride. As they reached the church steps, a little girl from Sunrise tugged Diana's gown. Auntie, can I keep my lantern after? Diana, kneeling, it's yours forever. Keep your light burning. Inside, sunbeams filtered through stained glass of no artistic renown, but much nostalgic value. Wood pews creaked. Someone's baby cooed. The pastor, a mild-mannered man who'd baptized Diana at 3 months, opened a Bible frayed at the edges. He spoke about agape, love that bends, binds wounds, builds lives. Then he invited vows. Hugo began. Hugo, steady, resonant. I, Hugo Chiquity Williams, promise to cultivate the soil of our dreams, to water the roots of your courage, to harvest laughter even in drought. He slipped a ring of braided gold, a design echoing intertwined pipelines, onto her finger. Diana answered, voice clear as midday bells. Diana, I, Diana Chinaza Brooks, pledge to honor the child in your smile, to invest my riches where your heart points, and to count success not in barrels or billions, but in bedtime stories we read to children who thought hope was a myth. She placed a plain silver band on his hand, etched inside with the coordinates of both their birthplaces. The pastor lifted his hands. Pastor, by the authority vested in me and witnessed by heaven and this village, I declare you husband and wife. Cheers erupted, tambourines, ululations, orphan choir bursting into song. Margaret wept openly. Charles wiped eyes behind a handkerchief. Nathan hooped, startling a goat tied near the door as part of the reception feast. The village square became a tapestry of color. Clay pots of jollof rice, grills smoking suya, cooler boxes of zobo. No seating chart. CEOs queued beside farmers. Socialites balanced plates on laps, learning to eat pounded yam with fingers. Diana and Hugo chose no head table. They moved from mat to mat, greeting each cluster. When they reached the orphans, 20 little hands thrust gift envelopes. Hand-drawn thank you cards crowned with glitter. Hugo blinked away tears. Diana read each name aloud like a roll call of future leaders. Margaret carried trays, serving Acra. Someone teased that haute couture lace might stain. She replied, let it. Stains tell stories. Light of a million kerosene lamps. No ballroom, just dirt-packed smooth circle of lanterns and Bose's choir humming Stand By Me. Hugo led Diana to the center. Barefoot, they swayed, dust swirling like firefly halos. At chorus, orphans rushed in, hugging their knees, turning the dance into one large family carousel. From the sidelines, Margaret leaned into Charles. Margaret, soft, our dynasty just grew a conscience. Charles, best merger we've ever witnessed. As stars returned, guests tied raffia strings to the couple's wrists, each not a prayer. The Kia, now festooned with palm leaves, just married, painted in chalk, waited by the gate. Hugo opened the passenger door. Before Diana entered, she turned to the crowd. Diana, thank you for watering our beginning. The engine rumbled to life. The car lumbered onto the dirt road, kids chasing behind until dust clouds gently hid it from view. Inside, Hugo laced his fingers through hers. Hugo, whisper, Mrs. Brooks Williams, where to first? Honeymoon Island or Project Site? Diana, glint in her eye, we'll rest 1 week. Then we drill new wells, clean water before spa water. The Kia disappeared down the hill, taillights blinking like twin embers heading into dark fields ready for tomorrow's light. The end.